Hello everyone and welcome to the FIA Certified Gran Turismo Championships. This the top 16 superstars in our manufacturer series. We're in the 2019-20 exhibition series, this season number 1, and we are now at round number 10. My name is Chris McCarthy and alongside me is Jimmy Broadbent.
They always have a little bit of manufacturer action here, of course. Always great to the different makes duke it out. And yeah, we've got a good one coming up these days. I hope you enjoy it.
I believe we do. Let's have a look at the point rankings then and see how the top 16 are looking after 9 rounds. So you can see PR1 Fire leading the way. The all familiar TRL Lightning, Mick Hizao second. Very, very close between those two. Likewise, Spider 12 in third place. So very close between our top 3. We could even see some changes up there in this one.
Yeah, there's 76 points there between the top 3. A bit further down, we've got Calster in there as well in 6th and 5th position. And Kaya, YouTube streamer, down in 7th. So a lot of well-known names there in the top 16.
There is indeed. Now let's have a look at how the manufacturers sit globally. So Mercedes-Benz at the top at the moment. Jaguar up in 2nd place. They're doing a great job. Honda 3rd, Toyota 4th, Aston Martin in 5th place. And rounding out the top 12 at the moment, the McLaren. Any surprises for you there?
Interesting to see Dodge in there, to be honest. They tend to struggle a little bit in the live events. Shame to see no Subaru, of course. We always want to see Subaru in there, but they aren't there at the moment. So, yeah, but pretty much what you expect to see there.
Well, let's have a look at the track we're going to be racing on. I'm sure it's going to be a very familiar one to you all. We're going to be heading to Italy, and we are going to be racing at Monza, a fantastic circuit. Always provides very, very close racing, as we know. Anyone who would look at that track would, I'm sure, know that it's going to provide a close race. Lots and lots of slipstreaming, and a track you can push really hard on, given the lack of corners.
Yeah, especially the cars with a lot of power are going to benefit around here, as you can imagine. That, of course, some good braking, especially for T1 and 2, the first chicane. Very good place to overtake there. Watch out on T1 though, because it can get quite busy through there if you aren't careful.
Well, we often do see incidents around Monza, and incidents, of course, do lead to penalties, and we'll have a look at where the penalty zones are going to be now. So it's going to be out of the second Lesmo, where the penalties are going to be given out before we get up to Ascari. So hopefully everyone stays out of trouble, but that's where the penalties will be awarded if they are given out. I'm sure you're all eager to know what we're going to be racing in, so let's tell you a little bit more about the race coming up. We're going to be in the Group 3 cars, medium and hard tyres, 17 laps as well, 11 times tyre wear.
Yeah, decently long race here, of course, as well. On the as you say, sorry, on the medium and the hard compound of tyre. That 11 times tyre wear isn't going to be as big of an effect around here at Monza. There aren't lots of corners that are going to give you massive tyre wear, of course, but tyres also help out with braking, so it's good to have a decent tyre on you for that.
Well, let's have a look at what we believe the strategy is going to be, or at least how long the tyres are going to last anyway. 6 laps for the mediums, 10 for the hards, and interesting to see 0.6 of a second you lose, so not actually losing a huge amount per lap being on the hard tyre. So it'll be interesting to see what people go for there.
Yeah, I think you could easily make that into a 1-stop if you feel like doing that, of course, but maybe some people will try and do medium 2-stop, that sort of thing, but yeah, we'll wait and see. These guys know better than us, of course.
They do indeed. And let's find out who's going to be starting where then. Let's get down to the grid and get this one underway. It's a Porsche at the front. Gisette is on pole position. The Nissan second with Fire. Spider 12 is in 3rd place. And we've got Creaser in 4th place in the Chevrolet. Matty 278 at 5th place. So nice spread, of course, of manufacturers. Any surprises for you as to the manufacturers we got up the front compared to down the back?
No, not really. I mean, we all know how fast that Nissan is in a straight line. That's sitting up there in 2nd place. Same with the Porsche as well. Aston Martin usually quite quick in a straight line, and of course teams like Peugeot struggle a bit around here, and then they are down at the bottom of the field. Watch out for the Mercs, though. They seem to be pretty good everywhere, and they're well represented here today. So yeah, we'll see what they can do.
Oh, we'll find out. They're just coming out of the Parabolica now and up towards the line, and it is Gisette in the Porsche that is going to lead us. Group 3 cars, 17 laps ahead of us. Who is going to bring us home to the line at the end of it? Let's find out as we get underway. It's a long run down towards turn number 1. Gisette's going to have to try and break the toe here. He's going to the racing line, but surely he's going to have to depend. PR1 Fire in that Nissan, already looking to the outside. In fact, already into the lead. Let's hope We all get through nice and cleanly. As we break for the first chicane, there was definitely a little bit of contact there, but I think we got away with it. And a penalty for Spider 12. There was certainly some contact there, and Spider 12 already a 5-second penalty as Gisette has managed to hold on to the lead.
Yeah, Spider just ran into the back there of the Nissan coming down into the first corner, and that's put the Nissan down into 5th place, but still Gisette leading now on the outside there. There goes the Corvette up into the lead, coming to the second chicane. Oh, there's been contact between the Nissan and the Corvette there. The Nissan just did not slow down. That's PR1 fire. That's got to be a penalty there for the Nissan. He just launched the car, and there you go, unsurprisingly, a 0.5 second penalty there. So it must be track limits. That's very surprising. He'll still lose a lot of time here coming out of the second Lesmo, but I think the punishment not fitting the crime there.
Yeah, certainly not. Hopefully we can have another look at it, but Gisette is going to go into the lead then, and then we've got Matty 278 going up into second place. PR1 fire after that penalty is going to be in third. Let's have a look at the replay.
We just caught the end of that, I think. It looks like
that's why the penalty was for PR1 fire.
Yeah, just going over there. I think he maybe just got the braking wrong, went into the back. It's so easy to do that on the first lap. A lot of people are braking at different braking points, not necessarily the racing speed braking point either, as you're just trying to work your way through the field, but very easy to make those mistakes. And here comes that Skyline, that Nissan GTR, just coming through easily, using the slipstream of Josette and going from third up into first place as we come through the parabolica for the first time.
Yeah, we can see the Mercedes there of Matty 278 just trying to get on the inside of Gisette. The Toyota in fourth place, that is Chon Chon. And the top four, yeah, well, gaining some positions and in a good position here to make some more as we get down towards the first chicane. A good view of it is Francesca, who is on the hard tyres well on the Chevrolet, having a very, very good start to the race. Ahead of us, Matty 278 is going to dive down the inside of Gisette to try and go into second place. Sensibly thinks the better of it, but this has been a fantastic start from the Chevrolet there of Fonseca.
Yeah, one Corvette's done all right at least, the other one not so much, but still in the fray there, so just a couple of places behind them. Bear in mind that although these guys are both racing for Corvette, really they're racing each other to be the one to represent the manufacturer when they go through to the live event. So there'll be no love lost there. Here comes the Aston Martin on the inside. Massive wing on that thing, my word. There's a bench on the back of that thing.
Yeah, of course, the EMEA region always very, very competitive. Our drivers from the Europe, Middle East and Africa. And we can see a fantastic race already settling in here. And as you said, only one can be the one that goes on to represent their manufacturer. So you want to be the top driver of your manufacturer. So as you said, they are racing each other, but at the moment it's the Aston Martin there of Stefanzi splitting the pair at the moment as we come up towards Ascari. Dilster is in 8th place, Felix in 9th, Moto 1815 in 10th place on the hard tyre as well. You can see the difference between the two drivers on the hard tyre. They started a lot closer together than that, I believe. Ludo is 11th, Sinrafe 12th, Prototype 13th, Super 997 14th. McGee is not up ahead.
Very late.
Yeah, that was almost creaser there, just trying to get to the inside, but a little bit too late in his decision.
Yeah, I think a bit late from the Aston Martin as well in terms of defending. Almost looked like a reaction, but of course I think you can just time that just right so it looks that way. It seems that the top four have somewhat broken away from the second pack at the moment. Of course, Surf and Seca at the head of that, and the Corvette as we come down to see one again. Again, the Aston Martin with another late move across there. I think we're getting into weaving territory at the moment. It's got to be careful there, Mr. Stefanzi. Coming through the chicane, all out of there. And again, the Aston Martin, a lot of power underneath the right foot in that car, so very easy to put a gap coming out in acceleration. But of course, around here, you can't really put away from anyone if they have the draft, unless you're the Nissan at the front, which seems to have a second lead now over the Porsche behind.
This is great news, isn't it, for the top four? Chon Chon at the back of the top four will be very pleased to see a 2-second gap behind. Just means that you can settle into your race and just focus on moving forwards rather than dropping backwards. Now Gisette is in danger of losing the toe here to PR1 Fire, gets it back again through the first Lesmo, but it's in that territory now where one mistake from Gisette, PR1 Fire is gone.
Yeah, we're looking back now from Gisette in that Porsche. You can see behind us there is the AMG of Matty. Starting to close up a little bit in the draft, but not quite enough here. And you see a great view coming through Ascari now of how the cars handle this corner. You see the AMG, the front engine machine, lot more front heavy through there, whereas the Porsche is able to rotate a bit more with the mid-engine and layout. Of course, it's quite subtle, but when you're at this level, you feel those things. You feel the differences between the cars. And rocking the old school Sauber livery there, the I think Sauber C11 livery from back in the Group C days. Great to see that being used.
Yeah, good stuff. There as we now come out of Parabolica. It looks like Chontron's losing touch here to the top three. He's got to be careful. We look back a little bit further down the field. We've got Creaser and Dilster side by side there. Dilster in the AMG, and we got the Chevrolet of Creaser just ahead of us as we now head down the start-finish straight. And Creaser's keen to get after the battle for 5th place here. Of course, Fonseca is holding that 5th at the moment, and it's just causing a huge delay because Fonseca on the hard tyre. We've already had a pit stop from Moto 1815, who was on the hard tyre as well, has now got rid of that. Interesting strategy. He's not going to have a tow. That's going to definitely affect. But
need the tow round here, really.
Yeah.
You need to have that if you want to fight with anyone. Driving on your own, you're going to be just slower than the pack, even if you're on fresh rubber. And you're kind of seeing that now, of course, with Fonseca at the front of the field in the Corvette with the hard compounded tyre. It doesn't really matter. People can't really do much about it. I think the guys behind and DJ Creaser pick up a penalty there. Maybe track limits, and our leader as well, also with a penalty. I'm going to guess that's for track limits because there's nobody around in there.
Yes.
It's 0.5 of a second, serves a penalty, and then there goes the Porsche, and there goes the AMG. So from first to third, just like that. So easy to pick up a penalty round here. And the thing is, he doesn't need to do it. He was leading, he was pulling away. I think maybe just pushing a little bit too hard.
I think that Gisette had just done so well to keep the pressure on. I mean, I know the toe is quite heavy, but kept the pressure on, and in PR15 just pushing a little bit too hard, and now picks up a penalty. But there's still a long race to go. This is only lap number 4 of 17. Don't forget, Matty 278 will want his turn in the lead of this race as well. So are we going to see Matty 278 get on the attack, or are we just going to see these guys continue to try and work together almost to just extend their lead so they can really fight it out at the end?
But watch this Nissan though, in a straight line. You can see in the timing there, it's already gaining. Probably it's now into second place, passing second place. There it goes, now up to first. Here we go, then battle for the lead, coming down to the first chicane. And the straight line speed of that Nissan, the turbo brick as I like to call it, just buzzing by everyone that's standing still. And despite the penalty in the last lap, PR1 Fire back up into the lead.
Well, how do you race against a car that is just that much quicker down the straight? It's, I guess you've got to try and get a move into the second chicane, perhaps, and then try and get away through the Lesmos. Or
you've got to try and hold it up, really. The thing is, this is part of the manufacturer series, kind of why I like it, is that different cars have different strengths. And around Monza, you know the Nissan's going to be quick, you know the Porsche's going to be quick, you know that the Corvette's going to be quick. And speaking of quick, something that's happened just there is Mr. Gisette was very quickly picked up a penalty. 0.5 seconds for track limits, so he'll be dropping down to 4th there because Chontron's still there in the background in the Toyota. Yeah,
Chontron's come back into play. It looked like too much curb through the second chicane did that from what I saw, but Gisette now has to give the room to Matty 278, was almost closing the door there, and Matty 278 was a little bit hesitant to go past at first, but gets through into second. This is great news for PR1 Fire out front. Chontron now comes back into play in 4th place. Hasn't been with these guys for a while, and I wonder how that's going to affect the driving of Chontron. Has been brought back into play, and it's now Chontron just has to take advantage of that and try and go forwards.
The Toyota is fairly decent in a straight line, but of course if it's not got the toe and others have, then it's always going to fall back a little bit. I think these guys need to kind of really focus on working together rather than just passing each other every opportunity, because the lead is there. The win can be there for any of these guys right now. They just need to focus. The thing is right now is that PR1 Fire is starting to pull out of slipstream range, just using the grunt there of the twin turbo V6 in the GTR. So maybe that's a game, set and match. But we've seen PR1 Fire make mistakes. We still have pit stops to happen yet, so a lot can happen.
Yeah, there's still a long way to go. It's Stefanzi and Creaser there side by side. Fonseca still in that 5th place. I think knows that there's no chance of going any further forwards, but he can stay here with the hard tyre. When the medium tyre's on, can perhaps pull away, and that's I think the tactic from Fonseca. Stefanzi and Creaser were going side by side. We did have some more pit stops there though. Sinraith, Dilster came in as well, Super 997 likewise, and Felix. they're all fairly close together down the back of the field. So 11th down to 15th, all in for one stop so far. Everyone else still yet to come in.
You're just seeing right now the benefit of having a car that's quick in a straight line at Monza. We've got our live point standings up on the right there. No changes, it seems, at the moment, so these results won't be improving the live or the point results for people involved so far, despite the fact that PR15 is leading at the moment. The gap now up to about 1.6 seconds, which we're now just starting to break the slipstream. So for Matty and PR1 just set behind, they're going to start falling off, I think, now, unless they can start really working together to catch this GTR. It's just so quick round here. It's a track that's built for this car. We all know this car has been quick in a straight line. It's quick in a straight line in real life as well, back when it was racing. But round here at Monza, it's just perfect for this car. Now, the next question is, when do we see our pit stops? Now, we think you can do this on the one stop if you go from medium and then to hards, but will we see people try medium, do you think?
Well, yeah, but potentially, the amount of distance that they're able to go. I mean, we did say, because of the shortage of corners around here, you can make the tyres last a lot longer than they usually would. Hence the tyre wear is up to times 11. But I think they don't seem to be struggling too much in these stages. So that's definitely an encouragement for anyone who wants to go and give that a go, unless they have to put the hard tyre on and do that for one lap and then go back straight to the mediums. But the Chevrolet there in 5th place, still a roadblock, but Stefanzi, I think, has finally able to draw alongside. Is going to have to be brave under braking, and side by side, little bit of contact, nice. But a good move overall.
Yeah, I saw behind that they had Stefanzi had got through temporarily, but then was pulled back by again in the straight line speed of the Corvette, and now we should see the Aston Martin rocket away finally, as he's let free from the roadblock that has been the Chevrolet Corvette behind. Let's see what now Stefanzi can do now that he has a clean track. He has no toe though, that is a different thing. So from second, even though he's slower in the corners, he has a toe and the car that's a bit quicker in a straight line anyway. So if he's close enough coming out the Parabolica, we might see Stefanzi go back down to 6th place again, but we'll see what happens through Ascari.
Yeah, that would be very, very frustrating, wouldn't it, for Stefanzi, after all of that hard work, to then just have the Chevrolet Corvette drive back past. That would be a little bit heartbreaking, I think, for Stefanzi. But we'll wait and see what happens out of the Parabolica. Of course, the Corvette going to be under pressure from Creaser as well as Ludo in the AMG, as they come through Parabolica now for the 7th time. Leaders across the line. And they are on to lap 7, so for the 6th time, shall I say, for Stefanzi, up to the start-finish line. And still our leaders continue to go round. And now we are getting into the latter stages of this stint. The gaps are just starting to open up a little bit more. You can see in the top right of your screen, 3 times on fuel, 11 times on the tyre. Big bit of curb there for Stefan Secker. Creaser just behind.
Yeah, breaking the toe round here is pretty much what you want to be doing if you are trying to pull away from the guys behind. You see that the Aston is almost doing it on the Corvette, but just as soon as Stefanzi starts to pull away, so second comes back with the Corvette, just has that bit more grunt there. I'd say that over the next couple of laps, I think he is going to fall back a little bit. The Lesmos, there you go, 7th second goes a little bit too hot into the second chicane, just trying to keep out of the Aston Martin. That will likely be a 0.5 second penalty for cutting the chicane, although he was slow off the exit. And even so, that the guys behind cannot get by. This Corvette is an absolute roadblock right now. If you're GTA Creaser or if you're Ludo behind, you're going to be swearing in your virtual hammer saying, get out of the way, come on, get on with it.
Yeah, so I tell you what, one thing we should have a look at soon as well is Matty278 has now come into a range where he can gain a toe here from PR15. I think he's just about in range, so that gap has come down.
So what happened to Giuseppe?
Giuseppe's somewhere has had a bit of an incident. Likewise, Chonchon, they've both fallen away. I mean, I'm not too sure if that's just tyre wear coming into play, or...
I mean, I've heard that the MR cars, such as this Porsche, is an MR car nowadays as opposed to a rear-engine car, have bad tyre wear on the rear tyres. So maybe there's been a couple of little bit of issues there and just not quite getting the traction out some of the slower corners, whereas the AMG, we know from the World Tour events, just in general, is a very good all-rounder. So I think now starting to bring the fight a little bit to that GTR, which we kind of thought was untouchable, but it seems Matty has other ideas. Pit stops coming in.
Well, when you say that, is the AMG, is that a good car for perhaps newcomers to just to just go on to get through these races without having to worry too much about tyre wear.
Quite a balanced car, and if anything, it's kind of tuned slightly towards understeer, so the car won't escape you on a lot of the time, such as a Porsche, which may do. But you're seeing Matty here really hustling this thing around, and you see that gap has come down massively, especially for your second chicane here. It just seems that Matty has that agility compared to the GTR in the front. Let's see how he goes for the Lesmos. Bit of a late apex here, and you drive to the outside curb. Very slippy out there on that green stuff, so don't touch that. And the second Lesmo, a bit tighter than the first. You can use the curb on the inside, but be careful on the outside. You can see him, through there, just a bit more, I think a bit more sure of his mood through there, as the GTR seems to be lumbering a little bit.
Yeah, he's just in the zone, isn't it? When you're in that zone, you can see you're closing in a little bit each corner. It just spurs you on, and your performance just increases that little bit more. So we did have pit stops, as Jimmy mentioned. We had Ludo gone to the hard tyre. Stefan Secker has come in and has come back out on the hard tyre. That's interesting. Prototype has gone on to the hard tyre. Sinrace has done 2 stops and is on the medium, but of course the Honda down the back of the field at the moment. So a lot of drivers going back onto the medium tyre, some went on to the hard tyre, so a differing strategies going on, and our leaders are now about to come in. So PR1 Fire in, Matty 278 on medium to medium.
Interesting to note that Matty has used less fuel than, of course, our leader, who's been out on his own, forging his own path through the air, whereas the other guys have been using the slipstream, maybe lifting a little bit, so we might see Matty come out ahead here of PR1 Fire, and I think he does. There you go, that's the difference in fuel there. Had to take on a bit less fuel. He's been using the slipstream, saving fuel, and now has slingshotted PR1 Fire in the pit lane. So this could be good, but of course now that means GTR is in the slipstream. We know how quick that car is in a straight line, so this is far from over.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you've got the fuel modes that you can use, of course, haven't you? And there's, of course, other ways you can do it. Just lifting off before you brake is another way. Short shifting as well. They're all the best techniques to use to fuel save. And Matty 278, as you said, used the slipstream very well there, and has been able to jump ahead of PR1 Fire, who will I don't think we'll be too disappointed, because we've still got a long way to go in this race, but that is a big moment in the race. Matty 278 takes the lead in the pits. Chon went on to the hard, so was the only one of the top 4 who did. The rest of the top 3 on the mediums.
Seems that the guys, of course, making, as we always tend to see, just making these tyres last and making them quick for pretty much the entirety of the race. Again, look at this, the slipstream here, really helping out the GTR. I think if anything, the AMG is a bit quicker in the corners, just a bit more agile, as we said before. We see through there, you can see it pulling away a little bit through Ascari. Better exit, but then straight away GTR locks onto the back into the slipstream, and you can see in the top left the relative comes down pretty quickly.
Yeah, and well, PR1 Fire lining up for a move into T1, I think. Matty 278, not too sure there's going to be much he can do about this. PR1 Fire through Parabolica they come, and in the tow from the range he's in, should take the lead pretty comfortably. Here is Dilster versus Chon on the harder tyre, so Dilster will want to get by as quickly as possible. Back to our leaders, and PR1 Fire happy to sit in second, it seems.
Okay, so now this is where Monza becomes a bit of a high-speed chess game, but a bit of a cliche, a motorsport cliche to say that, but it's 100% true. When do you make the move? Because if you make the move then Matty has a slipstream for the next corner, maybe he'll get back by again. You have to try and time it properly. So right now I think PR1 Fire is maybe just trying to figure out where he wants to pass, but you also have to think about that when, as we saw, when these cars get a little bit further into the stint, that GTR is weaker on its tyres than the AMG is, so don't stay too far back, otherwise the AMG might start pulling away.
It can be a dangerous tactic, can't it? Because if it goes wrong, then you only have yourself to blame. So PR1 Fire, I would... Interested to see that. I was surprised that PR1 Fire just didn't take the lead while it was there. I wonder if he'll come to regret that later in the race. But for now, Matty 278 is going to lead us. PR1 Fire has dropped back, if anything. Gisette is 3 seconds back. Now, last time around, Gisette was significantly slower as well. So no immediate chance of that gap coming down. We will keep an eye on that for you. Felix, if anything, is getting closer. So the 2 Porsches getting slightly closer together here. Dilster is in 5th place. Chon Ludo. Stefanzi has dropped back to 8th place. And then it's Creaser and Super 997 rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, you've got to be careful now if you're in the shoes of PR1 Fire. You've got to make sure you're in the right place at the right time. Meanwhile, John in the Toyota, trying to chase down Dilster in the AMG. John, of course, in the hard compounder tyre, so it's not quite as quick through the corners, or shouldn't be anywhere than Dilster, but looks quite competitive through there. And now he'll have the draft all the way down the T1, but you're seeing a good exit there from Dilster. And interestingly, VLX Felix come into the pit there. I think that's for is that his only stop he's done so far?
That I thought that was his second stop, but given the amount of fuel he had left, I'd say that is, yeah, it is a second stop. Well, he had hardly any fuel in there, so I wonder if that was more just to get a bit more fuel in the car than anything else. But does come in for a second stop and comes back out in 10th. Super 997 has done likewise and has now gone on to the hard tyre. PR1 Fire getting back closer once again. Half a second it is between our top two. There we go, going back on the attack now. So
I'd say really, ideally, you'd always pick track position, wouldn't you? Like even, I mean, 9 times out of 10, maybe Monza's a bit of an exception though.
Yeah, I mean, you've got, yeah, it depends on confidence, doesn't it? I mean, from real racing experience, I have done that before, where I've waited and waited and waited, and then last lap you get through and gives them no other chance. But you have to be very confident in your abilities to do that, and it's dangerous in the sense you can't make any mistakes, because if you do that, then it was all your own fault anyway.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It's worth a gamble, I guess. It's worth a go.
Here we go, about as close as he has been. 3/10 of a second now. He's got the run down to Parabolica. Will he lift? He does. He sees.
Let's have a look. Bottom right.
Yeah, lifting. There you go. Half throttle now, just saving a bit of fuel. Maybe he's marginal on fuel. That could be a thing as well.
Yes, that's a good point.
He might have gone for a shorter pit stop to make sure he actually gets out behind Matty. And now Matty with not a great Matty on the brakes there.
Matty's let him go through.
I think Matty touched the brakes there and just held them coming down the straight a little bit to let him through. Maybe he did, maybe I imagined that, but that was a lot of speed coming out the straight there. And now Matty is behind PR1 Fire, so now they're both playing this little game, it seems.
Yeah, it did look like the brake lights came on there. So interesting to see. I wonder if we'll get another look at it. But anyway, Matty 278 drops in behind. No one wants to lead the race. Have you ever heard that sentence said before? But this is something that's not unusual to GT Sport racing at this track, is it?
Now these guys, we always say they are their own strategists, their own pit mechanic. They're pretty much everything in this. So sometimes you get things wrong, sometimes you get things right. But I think that higher capacity of thinking really separates the quick guys from the really quick guys. And here's John going up the inside of Dilster in the AMG. Standard move down to second chicane, made even more impressive by the fact that he has a tyre disadvantage over the AMG just passed, hard versus medium.
Yeah, good stuff from Chon, making those hard tyres work. Of course, as you said, the disadvantage from them isn't excessive because you've got the toe as well. So Chon doing a good job there to still run in fourth place. Gisette, very lonely, sadly down in third place at the moment. But if anything's to kick off up here, then Gisette may come into play later on, and there you can see just about in the background the Porsche there of Gisette. We're getting into the final quarter of this race now. We'll ride on board with Matty out of the Parabolica, and now we'll see the tow come into play. But if Matty was planning to do this, he's dropped back potentially a little bit further than he might have anticipated. 1 second the gap now between the top two.
I think Vile's made his move now. So, all right, then fair enough. He's just gone, turned it all up, back up to race speed again. Let's try and get away as quick as I can. And now there's a second between the two. Just like that, you've got to be wary of that when you're playing that game. Otherwise, you end up losing very quickly. So here's something we haven't actually looked at all this race. Is McGee, Mr. McGee, down in 8th in the Jaguar. Down in 9th, I should say, trying to hunt down Felix. Here's Dilster out of the pit lane after his stop, and McGee's just about slipped by. Looked to the inside, tries to cut back on the Porsche in front. A bit too far back for that, but just about sneaking up into 8th place there in that very pretty F-line. Yeah,
I think that was a cover-off, wasn't it? McGee thought maybe is Dilster going to be a little bit brave into turn 1 here and try and dive down the inside, straight out of the pits. He's gone across to change his mind. Change the mind of Dilster, who's now in 9th place. Comes out on the hard tyre. So McGee, we are looking at, is 8th place. The Jag doing very well in the global rankings, of course. Oh, that's a little bit of contact there between the Peugeot and the Honda. Super 997 and Cinrate, two manufacturers that have struggled overall around this circuit, particularly in this race anyway.
Really digging the old BTCC livery there on the NSX. That's really cool. I like the old Honda Accord from '98, I think. I'm sure I have a friend that will correct me on that if I'm wrong. But yeah, this is kind of best of the rest. These are the guys that really struggle in the straight line round here. But you see they're having their own little fight. You know, the Peugeot, the Honda, the Ford and the Subaru back there as well. So they're having fun at least, but of course not really in a very competitive position. The NSX are all over the back of this Peugeot here. Sometimes you see a little bit of bump drafting in these events, which is, I think, is not really allowed under the rules, to be honest. But it's a good way to make up a little bit of time, especially if you're in one of these slower cars that don't quite have the legs of the guys at the front. Honda goes up the inside there of the Peugeot. Nice, easy move. Peugeot was very compliant through there. Could have made that a lot harder than it was, but just kept there for now. And NSX goes up into 12th.
Yeah, of course, you just have to do what you can in these races. Once you sign that contract with that manufacturer, you're in for the season. And some tracks are going to suit you very well, some are not so much, and this is one of them for those guys. But of course, for someone like PR15 coming into this race, he'll know I've got to take a win here. This is a good track for the car. Have to go out and try and get a win. But we look back at Felix. Of course, we've got a Porsche in the top 3. This is Felix in 7th place, battling away with Creaser. So Fonseca has dropped down in the other Chevrolet, down to 10th place. Of course, did that long run on the hard tyre, and that has seen him just drop down the order now, down to 10th. But Felix and Creaser taking up the fight for 6th. We've got McGee there in 8th.
How McGee's still going. I can't help but think that Fonseca's strategy there, the hard tyre, just wasn't a good one.
No,
I mean, like, you want to spend as little time on the worst tyre as possible. And bear in mind, some of these guys are one stop in the medium. The top 3, for example, I think have all done that so far. Fire, Matty and Gisette. The gap between Fire and Matty has kind of stayed about the same, if not increased a tiny bit, it seems. I'm not sure Matty quite has the speed in that AMG at this stage of the race to pull that gap back in again. Especially given the straight line speed of that GTR in the lead. I'm not sure there's going to be much he can do about it from here, unless there is a mistake from PR15, which we have seen, so who knows. Yeah,
well, yeah, we can see some weaving coming into play now. Creaser just trying to break the toe. Our friend McGee is coming under pressure now as well, actually, from Dilster in the background. Through Parabolica we go. Gap between the two leaders, 1.2 seconds. So since PR15 kind of got his head down and pulled that second advantage, it hasn't moved since, and well, even on the last lap was 0.4 quicker than Matty at 2.78. And let's go on board with Matty now and see if, with 2 laps to go, a lap and a half even, can he now bring this gap down and put the pressure on the Nissan ahead.
So if you're Matty right now, you're trying to focus on every apex, and there a small mistake from the GTR, just kicking up a little bit of gravel. That would have slowed him down on the run down to the first Lesmo. You see the AMG's struggling with a little bit of understeer there, turning in a bit too quick into the corner, the front end just not quite complying. Not quite the same story for the second Lesmo. Kick of oversteer, actually, if anything there, just on the throttle. A lot of these guys don't run traction control, because it helps rotate the car a little bit. But the problem is, you make a mistake out of second Lesmo, you carry it all the way up to Ascari, and it seems that time there, PR1 Fire just managed that a little bit better, and the gap stays about 1.2 seconds. There's going to be something very special here from Matty if he wants to close this gap up.
Yeah, I think PR1 Fire's got his tactics spot on here. Pulled the pin when he got the lead and has kept that ever since, and there's nothing Matty 278 has been able to do in response as we head down to Parabolica. It's for the penultimate time now. We're going to have one to go at the end, and these two really have set a pace that no one has been able to answer to. Of course, Gisette was battling for the lead early doors. Gisette is now in 3rd place, but more significantly, almost 10 seconds back. Chonchon has been 4th for most of this race and remains in 4th, albeit almost 20 seconds back from this man here, PR1 Fire, who has now extended that gap even further, and I think has forced Matty 278 to just settle for second now, because 1.2 seconds is a gap that is almost impossible to close around here unless we see a huge mistake from PR1 Fire out front.
We'll see though. Here comes the GTR up to the second chicane. Last time for the Swedish driver through here to clip the curb on the inside, run it a little bit wide there, avoiding the gravel this time, so a bit quicker out there, down to the first Lesmo. Such a late apex here, you never really know when to touch it. Watch out for the curb though on the inside, though it is raised. Same with the second Lesmo. Be a bit more patient for this one, a bit tighter than you think it is. Then use this the grunt from the Turbo V6 ahead of you. And now we go up a straight behind there. 1.3 seconds, the gap increasing, if anything, at the moment to Matty behind. And only really Ascari and the Parabolica now separating PR1 Fire and Nissan from a victory here at Monza.
Yeah, PR1 Fire has done a great job, as you said, the Swedish driver, the Brit Matty, 278 behind. Then it's the Spaniard of Giuseppe. But it was a bit of a high-speed chess game, as we said, but PR1 Fire better tactics on the day, and is going to lead us home to take the win, it seems, in the EMEA region.
So then last corner then for PR1 Fire, a great race there from the Nissan driver. We thought he may have lost it for a second after his pit stop, but managed to retake the lead, overtaking Matty down towards T1. And here he comes across the line. PR1 Fire in the Nissan will win here at Monza for round 10. Matty 278, a valiant effort, will follow him home in second position for Mercedes, and a bit further down the road, 10 seconds back now, it's just set the teammate of Fire. He'll come home, take the last step of the podium. A good race for Porsche there. Here comes Toyota Chonchon. It could be better for him, I think, so far. Insistent running the hard compounder tyre, takes fourth, and then TX3 Stefanzi in fifth, and then we get to our last manufacturer. Top six manufacturers completely different. Greaser sixth, Felix seventh, and Stefan Secker in eighth position.
Yeah, McGee then finishes 9th place. French driver Ludo, we are looking at now, will be 10th. The Brit Sinraith is going to be in 11th place behind that. Super 997, the German, will be 12th place in the Peugeot. And then we have the Ford of Moto 1815 prototype in the Subaru rounds out the field. So there's confirmation of the results. Fire it is who takes victory, was on fire out on track as well. 146.796, fastest lap and a win. 1.7, a fairly commanding win at the end there. Matty 278 did run him close at times, but PR1 Fire just able to extend and take the win. And there you can see the full results. Not everyone making it to the end, unfortunately. We did lose Dilster and Spider 12 as well, sadly. Spider 12 right at the start of the race, started quite high up in that Lamborghini Huracan as well, but a shame to see him not make the end of the race. So that was the results. Let's take a look at the point standings then after 10 rounds. He was on top in the race, and he's on top in the points as well. PR1 Fire leading the way from TRL Lightning. Spider 12 in third place. Devil Soul moved up the order, as did Matty 278 and Stefan Secker, both moving up nicely. And Stefanzi there coming into the top 16 into 12th place.
There's spacing a lot of people there, so a good move there for Stefanzi. Of course, good time to do it at the end of the 10th round. So yeah, good result for him.
Let's see how those results have affected our global manufacturer rankings. Let's take a look at who's on top. Well, Mercedes-Benz still leading the way, but Toyota just about leapfrog Jaguar, as well as Honda and Aston Martin as well. Ford up to 6th, and Nissan climbing up nicely as well. They move up into 9th place. Of course, don't forget, we're going to have our next live event very shortly, where we'll have our manufacturer series racing in action, as well as our Nations Cup. We're going to be heading over to Monaco once again for the World Finals to complete our World Tour in 2019. November the 22nd to the 24th is when you need to join us live to see who is crowned champions. That's all from now. From myself, Chris McCarthy, and Jimmy Broadbent, it's goodbye.
So after an investigation into this week's races, it became apparent that some drivers were using a loophole with the tyres. So what was happening is drivers were starting with two compounds of tyres, hard on the front, for example, and medium on the rear, and that would then essentially fool the game into thinking that, both tyre compounds have been used. Because this is technically not against the rules, rather just a loophole in the regulations, the results will remain the same for this week, but will be changed so the loophole cannot be used in further events.